We'll give it just a minute here before I get going. Alright, thanks everyone for joining today for another Malts and Meatballs. It's been a little while since I've done one of these, and I have a whole bunch of things that I want to unbox. As well as then I'm going to talk about the Patreon that I have set up over on nerdologist.com. Petter talked about that in an article as well today. Basically, I set it up so hopefully it will be something that I can use to improve the site, improve the streaming, improve the 10-Minute Marvel podcast. But I'll go into some more details of that coming up here. As always, before we get into anything, let's talk about today's beer of choice. Tequila, a barrel-aged lime gose with lime and agave. I have not had this one before. This is part of my 28 Beers of February, where I'm going to try and have a different featured beer every day. Interesting. It's good. I think that it's fairly sweet for a gose. I would almost prefer that the tart kick that you get at the front of it sticks around longer. But that'll be the beer that I'm drinking for the stream today. So let's bust into some of these boxes. Some of these are not all that exciting, but they're just ones that I picked up recently that I haven't taken the shrink off, actually. So over last weekend, I went to my friendly local game store, All Systems Go, here in Minneapolis. And I did that to pick up Quicksilver. But of course, if I'm there, I'm going to pick up a little bit more as well. I picked up Deadly Doodles 2, which is a game that I've already taken out of the shrink, so no unboxing for that today. Because I actually played that one the day that I got it. Space Base is a game that has been interesting me for a while because it's referred to as kind of a Machikoro killer. I actually like Machikoro pretty well, but in terms of the type of game it is, Machikoro is just a little bit too simple, but still not going to be the most simple engine builder type game that I do. That's a pretty hefty rulebook here for Space Base. And my hope is that Space Base is going to be kind of that similar style game with dice that activate stuff to Machikoro, but having more going on with it. I'm not even going to pretend I know what... That's upside down for you, sorry. All of these things are. But we'll have to give it a go sometime soon here, hopefully. We have a nice stack of player boards. Interesting. I don't mind that at all there. It looks like it has room for some of the expansions. We have these really thin little cards. Let's check them out. So, 10, 11, 12. So it looks like these are all going to be the same, just different sets of 1 through 12 for all the players, which looks like it's going to match up on the board like that. Nice little starting player one. Assuming these are supposed to slide in like that. Maybe. And then we have a bigger stack of those little cards as well. I'm guessing that these are the ones that can be bought. Looks like they have potentially certain rules for them. Some symbology like this one. Arrows off to either side. I'm assuming you can activate the ability off to either side you choose. And that is a huge stack of them. Buy any card and place it in any sector 7 through 12. Huh. Interesting. I will be curious to see how this sets up and plays. Definitely looks like a fun one, and hopefully it's not too complex to teach, but we'll have to see coming up here for Space Base. Now, Space Base is one that probably people have seen a lot before. This next one has just about finished fulfilling in the US. And this is Dice Throwing Adventure. So, Dice Throwing Adventure is the standalone, or is not a standalone. It is an expansion to Dice Throwing. I picked up this one on the Dice Throwing Adventure Kickstarter as well, so that I could get every single character. I'm not going to bust that one open. It's like every standard Dice Throwing dual pack. A lot of fun. I love that game as a really fun kind of dice chucker. But this takes that dice chucker battling style game and makes it cooperative as you fight your way up to face off against the Emperor. I believe that's what they call him, who sits on the dice throne. Now, I really love Manny Tremblay's art. He does basically all of it for dice throwing. And it just it really pops. Add in a little spot glass to make it pop even more. Very cool. There are some legacy elements in here, but I'm not going to be showing those, much like most people who do these unboxings. So we have our rule book, 13, 14 pages, 15 pages. So a fair amount in there. We have our campaign scoring sheet, which is cool. I like it. I'll probably laminate this actually. An advertisement. These are all the characters that you can play with in it. I have all of them. I'm actually going to be selling my original Season 1, which didn't have those 2 characters in the box I showed you, but it has 6 of them in it, as I'm replacing those 6 with the dual packs, which are those 1v1 packs, simply because I like to be able to grab all of them and just take them with me. I don't want to have to lug around a big box, so I can grab 2 of the dual boxes and have a good variety of stuff. We have all our different tokens. Smells a little funky for some reason. Don't know why. And we have standees for all the different characters. You could get painted minis as well. I did not. Well, I think you get minis or painted minis. I didn't do that, but these standees look so cool. And I'm sure the minis would pop a little bit more, but I still like these standees a lot. This tray is awesome. I'm assuming it's going to fit basically everything that I punch. On this side, another tray, miniatures and others, so it looks like some dice for the bad guys. We have health trackers, standee, stuff like that. There's a lot to pull out of this. Here's the big bulk of the game in this one. I'll come back to it here. But we have things like, looks like a marketplace, a loot table, and in here we have, and I'm just going to show images, Fallen Barbarian, Fallen Gunslinger, Fallen Monk, and you'll have to find out what the Mad King looks like yourself. Let's get that packed back up. Drop it back in there. Set this one back on top. Let's look some at this big Adventures box. Such nice, like this is a really nice thick plastic, has some flex to it, but it's really good. Looks like some stuff for different modes. There's boss versus boss mode. You do portal crawls. and other things. We have a nice set of dividers here to go through and set up. Legacy Pack B. We have all our different locations that we can go to. So this is scenario based kind of, but the map is randomly generated with these tiles. You can see there are a lot of them. There's a lot of level 1, 2, 3. So there's going to be a ton of content to play through there. Have a ton of cards here. I'm actually going to bust into this real quick just to show off this top card. I'm not going to go through the deck because I'm not sure how much will be like spoiler in here, but hopefully, yeah, you can tell. Like, this is a foiled card. This is real cool. Like, that's not something you normally get. And of that big stack, that many are foiled. That's a lot of cards. That's very cool. We have Legacy Pack D. That looks like it might be foil. Legacy Pack C. And this is more just content that you can open. Legacy Pack A. Have our scenarios divider. Our different scenarios here. 4, 3, 2, 1. So I believe that corresponds to the different bad guys you can face off against. Plus, I have this promo pack here that came with Kickstarter. 5 minions and 15 loot cards. We're gonna bust into this one just for the heck of it. Get everything into that main box. Shiny Loot Goblin, Chimera, Melodic Maiden, so a Siren, a Lithe Elf, Umbra. So all of those are foiled, and we have a few more foiled cards here as well. We have a cat. Alright, so as I pack this up, you gotta watch me fit everything back in here. It fits nice. It fits really nicely in here. And I'm just gonna stick those on top. I'll get them punched. Coming up here. 10% off the minis. I'm not gonna lie, that's going to be tempting me coming up here. Because no, it's gonna tempt me. I will probably stick with the stand ease simply because I think I'm gonna play Dice Throwing Adventures a fair amount, but I still think I'm going to play regular Dice Throwing more. So we have a package from Amazon. This one really won't be in the unboxing, other than that it just showed up today. This is actually a game that's been out for quite a while, and fairly often you can find it cheaply, which I did. And it's Adventureland from Hobby Games. This one, Tom Vassell from the Dice Tower talks up a lot, and it does seem to me like it's going to be a pretty interesting game. So let me bust into it here. Maybe. High quality plastic on this one. So, from what I know of Adventureland, you're going out trying to find, or trying to collect, I think, these different things here. And you're doing it on this board. But the interesting thing is you start, I believe, in these spots maybe, but on your turn you're trying to collect stuff. I think you're trying to collect sets of stuff. You move to the right and down. You never move back up. So you have a collection of adventurers who are going to be moving along the way. And there are different types of adventures you can go on. And here it looks like. So the goal of the game can change up a little bit. I think that's one thing I've heard about it is you can play a handful of different ways. It looks like there are 3 different scenarios. Before it repeats in another couple languages. So this one I'm very curious about. I think it's going to be a fun one. I'm going to be able to check out. And we can look at the cards here a little bit. A1 has that flower symbol, swords, gold, bad guy maybe? We'll have to see is look through the rule book, but it looks like that looks more like a bad guy to me. Looks like as we go through we're getting more and more, or we have that many different options, one for each spot on the grid. So these must be you're in town doing something. Maybe you're fighting someone there as well. But yeah, A1 through K10, so a whole lot of them in there. I'd love it if there was an actual spot for those cards in this box. It's probably my only quibble is we have a Fantasy Flight Valley of the Shadow of Death in it, which means basically there's no good way to store anything. But that's been Adventureland. So now we come to the last big one. Yeah, that's just a beer that's not bad, but not great. This is one that was on Kickstarter, but I didn't back. Then It got a ton of buzz and made a lot of people's top 10 lists for 2020. Remember, I am a trained professional. Do not do what I am doing. I'm a trained professional, not a responsible one. From Breaking Games. A nice little thing. I'm going to have to stand up. Pull this bad boy. Out. Maybe. A box. They did a wonderfully good job packing this. Like, this is really well done. It's up there with like Awakened Realms packing of stuff. So we have our giant, massive Dwellings of Eldervale plus the Minotaur. I got the Legendary Edition, which is the fanciest edition you can get, just because it added more monsters. Not the Minotaur. Oddly enough, that was a separate order. But it also just added some more fun stuff, like higher quality components. Let's just start with the Minotaur here. So we have a Minotaur standee, a Minotaur character card, and then the Minotaur himself. Not a big miniature, but nice size for what's going to be a very big game. Just get him quickly packed back in. And if anybody has any questions about these games, either now live or when it's up on the website, definitely, or on YouTube, definitely leave comments there. I will be responding to them as often as I can. I need to do a better job about making sure that I check these things. Well, almost got the shrink off it. This is a very solid box. Now, it doesn't sit flush, which to me means... Okay, first things first. Look at that. That's in the box cover. That's ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. Important, replace your sets of 8 elemental starter cards with these new cards. So, must be an update. Rule play. This is for the solo role play. An appendix to it. So we got a little bit to look at here. One of the things that we'll see is we have a lot of these game trays. Again, like I showed what was in Dice Throne. And this comes with basically just as many. We also have our player reference sheets, which anytime a game has those, I love it. So this is why it isn't sitting flat. I believe in here there is storage for all these things. So once that's done, it should sit flatter. We have our elemental spell board here, as well as our score tracker, glory tracker, underworld where they go when they die, stickers that go somewhere. Looks like monster standees, and I don't know, maybe we're going to Valhalla. For the solo play, we have Ghosts of Eldervale here. And let's just start to see what we have in here. So we have all the different races you can play. And I'm going to bust it open here. Show off just how much content there is in this game. So we have the Storm Horde here, and the Skyborn Avians. One card, two different ones. So Shadow Demons or Cult of the Night Queen. Embercrush Orgs, Fire Witch Goblins, Stonehelm Dwarves, Wardens of the Even March. And there are, I believe, a total of 8 different of these groups. I'm going to pull out the other pack of them just to kind of show off some more. We have Rattlings of the Swarm, or Servants of the Eye, Elves of Briardell, Mosswood Trolls, Clerics of the Dawn, Pride of Bastet, Pirates of Nightmare Cove, finally the Atlanteans. So we have, like I said, our 8 different ones there. That matches up with the different colors on the board. And there are 8 of these trays. So when I go through and punch everything, this is going to be set up so that everything I need to start playing either the Atlanteans or the Pirates of Nightmare Cove is in this tray with this on top. Now, there has been some concern expressed about how this clips in, and where it does, there are little bumps out, which will mean that these cardboard pieces do wear over time, but I'm not super concerned about that. I think most people are going to find that, sure, there's a little bit of wear and tear on them, but it's way nicer to have that little bit of wear and tear versus having to set everything up every time. So it looks like we have stuff for each color here. Not sure what these guys are. Maybe some stuff for monsters. There's just a ton in this box. We have all sorts of trays that if we get down further into it, all these guys. We have our screen printed meeples. Let me pull this out. So just the classic worker looks like that. we have our little dwellings, which it's very cool how these work. The meeple. So your worker, who's rolling around in my hand, becomes your dwelling. Still more to go. We have more screen printed meeples of the giant dragons that each group has. We have the wizards as well, screen printed. Upgraded version for me. So I got these resources are wooden. So everything in here is so cool. Like swords, pickaxes, super high quality. Beautiful coins. Let me pull one out so you can see it better. Standees, I believe, for the monster standees. Whole bunch of dice. Cards. I'm sure we're going to find more of those. Storage spots for stuff underneath here. Monster minis. Look like they've had a wash done to them. So it's not just flat plastic, which is really nice. More monsters. Even more monsters. And so this is fun. You have bases with a couple different audio settings. To make sure I turn that off, otherwise it's going to be very noisy. We have a whole bunch of spell cards down here. Let me bust open one of these. Spell cards are just cards in general. They vary in color, what they do. Great artwork on them. Let's see, I think that's about the last layer. Except there's more. No idea who she is. Fun sculpt. I'm assuming she fits in there. Standy for her. Man alive, is there... Between this and Dice Throwing Adventures, I have a ton of stuff to be sorting here. I'm going to just quickly toss some of this back in, and I will be getting to sorting this soon. Maybe if I have a real long meeting coming up. But I'm not going to stick everything away right now, because I do have more that I want to talk about. So, let's see if this works. So like I said, I've set up a Patreon. And I was hoping I could scroll on this, but maybe I can. Nope. Looks like it's static for me, but that's okay. I mainly just want to talk about this, and I'll tell you where you can go and find it. So, neurologist.com I've been running since 2016. I want to say October 2016. So over 4 years at this point. And it has been a blast to run. Like, I love writing articles for it, and I try and get at least one thing up every day, every weekday. Now, with that, all the money for nerdologists.com, so the domain name, the hosting, podcast hosting, this audio-visual equipment, stuff for the Meeples, for Meeples and for 10 Minute Marvel, all of that has been stuff that I have paid for myself, and I'm perfectly happy doing that. Like, I'm not creating this Patreon as kind of like, give me money or content is going to go away or content won't continue to improve the quality of it. I want to always be improving what I do, and through Patreon and donations there, it will be able to be improved faster. I have set up 4 different levels. You can see 3 of them here: $3, $5, $10, and $50. $50 will get you into a once a month, one shot, or campaign, depending on what we have for a group, of a Dungeons and Dragons game. Plus everything at the lower levels. How I kind of wanted to set up the Patreon in terms of like, hey, here are rewards, here are the things that you're getting out of it, is monthly I want to do a Patreon chosen topic for a special one-off article for on Patreon. To go along with that article, Kristen, my wife, is going to be creating coloring pages for it. So who knows what we'll end up getting coloring pages for, but it'll be a lot of fun. That's going to be available at the $5 level for that coloring page. $3 gets you that extra article and voting on that extra article. So $5, you also get access to probably a couple, 2 to 4 times a year. I plan on doing like a separate additional like video stream, Patreon only. So at $5 and above, you get access to that. At $10, I want to do a yearly Dungeons and Dragons supplement for people, whatever that might be. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, yeah. And at that level, you also get a shout out on the Malts and Meeples YouTube channel. Like, I want to create a sign off screen, basically, that thanks all patrons who are at the $10 or higher level. So I want to be able to provide something for you all at every single level. But at the same time, I don't want to do anything that's going to take away from the work that's already being put into nerdologist.com. What I'm hoping to start putting in more into this YouTube channel, Malts and Meeples, and the podcast 10 Minute Marvel, which I'm at almost 80 episodes, I want to say. So all of those things are still going to continue and be available to everyone. I'm just setting up the Patreon as a way to hopefully be able to improve some things faster than I would normally. And with that, it's not just going to be buying new equipment or paying for the cost of the website. Like I said, I'm probably going to do all of that stuff anyways, and I do really want to continue to grow what I'm doing over there. But I also then want to be able to bring in more games, more things to talk about, more anime to check out, whatever it might be. If we feel like there's a good reason for me to get Crunchyroll, it'd be great to have Patreon pay for that subscription to help kind of allow me to branch out into more things. Because, I mean, honestly, I have Hulu, Disney Plus, Netflix, and Funimation, and Amazon Prime, all for streaming. So it's an expense. It's something that I'm perfectly happy to pay for, because I'm not going to get rid of Netflix because I want to watch the anime and Stranger Things and all of that on there. I'm not going to get rid of Prime because we order enough off of Amazon and like we have subscriptions to stuff that it's worth it just for the shopping side of things. And Disney Plus can't get rid of that when I have a Marvel podcast, which I've been talking about WandaVision a ton for the past 4 weeks now. So, like, these things aren't going to go away. This is just me asking that if you enjoy the content that I'm putting out, the content on this channel, on 10 Minute Marvel, on nerdologists.com, that you consider tossing a few bucks my way. I know that there's plenty of things out there fighting for your money, your time, and if you do enjoy what I'm doing and feel like it's a good use of your money, I will say thank you profoundly for that. Like, that would mean a ton to me to have people think that my content is good enough to pay for. And if you don't have the funds to do so, don't feel bad about it. Like, I know that coming out of 2020, a lot of people have funds tight for different reasons. So I just kind of wanted to explain why I was creating a Patreon. This is just something that I'm hoping, with the site growing and with the podcast growing, and if I can be consistent here on Malts and Meeples, hopefully Malts and Meeples growing, I felt like it was probably time to do this to see if I can get it to help pay for itself, help cover itself. And I don't really want to do advertisements on the site. I don't want to throw in an ad for something in the middle of this episode or this stream to promote something. So I'm just kind of putting out the Patreon there at this point in time, and hopefully the site and things will continue to grow and more opportunities maybe to show off games like I have sitting on here on the table for reviews for stuff like that will be something that I can start doing. But with that, it's been about 50 minutes, just over. And I do want to thank you all for checking out Malts and Meeples, checking out this video up here. I hope that some of these games that I unboxed look cool. I know that actually having my hands on Dwellings of Eldervale, man, it looks really cool, and I'm so excited to give it a try. And if you are enjoying this content, if you like what I'm doing over on nerdologist.com, if you like what's happening here on Malts and Meeples, be sure to subscribe, ring the notification bell to know when I go live. The goal will be for every Wednesday, or at least most Wednesdays coming up here. And yeah, as always, check out 10 Minute Marvel podcast as well for all your Marvel news, for your WandaVision, what the F is happening in that show. So yeah, I just want to thank you all for checking it out, and bottoms up.